Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I'm not just saying that because I'm a partisan hack, but Trump's poll numbers look pretty good. 2 weeks into it. Look, they're not stellar, but the important context is, where were his numbers when he was 2 weeks into his first presidency? Well, he was underwater, as in he had more people strongly disapprove than strongly approve. Not only has he lessened that gap, he's actually turned positive. He's in the green on that statistic. And it doesn't mean a whole lot if I say it, but I'll have the statistician from CNN say it in just a second, Harry Inton. But my question for you is not even if these numbers are real. Do you think these numbers can last? Do you think these numbers can withstand the onslaught of 95% negative press coverage, which is what he got over the campaign cycle and about what we were used to for the 4 years? We already saw how they covered him. Can these high poll numbers stay positive through even the onslaught of media that's about to happen over the next 4 years? Because I can see this both ways. Number one, one of the big differences is that the media, the legacy media, has given way to a lot of competition that doesn't share their ideological backing. I mean, kind of used to. It's weird to say that Joe Rogan is sort of a countervailing thought in the mainstream media, because he is a Democrat still. Like, I think he still claims to be a liberal. He doesn't claim to be MAGA. He still wants like universal health care and believes in climate change and things like that. But, they have taken up a lot of space for the millions of people that watch Joe Rogan. Maybe during Trump 1.0, which was now 8 years ago, maybe they weren't watching podcasts yet. Joe Rogan wasn't nearly as big. Maybe these people in the same chair that they're in now would have been watching MSNBC or something at the time. So the question becomes, can these good poll numbers last? Has the media lost enough juice that they can't take this guy down? Because by the time Donald Trump was rolling into the re-election campaign, you remember how beat down we were during the year of COVID? Wasn't 2020 like the worst year ever, just like apocalyptic all the way around? Well, it really wasn't. I know this is hard to remember, but it really wasn't that much different, the media's treatment of the previous Republican president, George W. Bush. There was Bush derangement syndrome. Trump derangement syndrome, I think, is a dangerous way to label it, because that almost assumes Trump's the problem. No, there was Bush derangement syndrome, and before that, there was Bush derangement syndrome. Before that, there was Reagan derangement syndrome. Can these good poll numbers last? Well, first, let me show you how good they are. Harry Inton from CNN explaining this to his dumbfounded co-host.
But it's a mixed bag. Yeah, I mean, look, but it's not just CBS. I like to take an average of the polls. And holy smokes, I mean, look at what the difference is between now versus 8 years ago during the first Trump term, right? This is Trump's net approval rating on February 10th. You go back to 2017, Trump was already underwater at -5 points on the net approval rating. That's approval minus disapproval. What a difference 8 years makes. He's on the positive side of the ledger at +4 points. And again, it's not just the CBS News poll. We're talking about the Gallup poll. We're talking about the Ipsos poll. We are talking about the Pew poll. All of these respective pollsters have Trump in a better position now than they did 8 years ago. The bottom line is Americans are far more likely to say they like what they're seeing now versus what they felt during Trump's first term.
Wow. Okay. That is CNN saying that. That is not Fox News saying that. That is not the Trump campaign saying that. So if CNN's saying it, you gotta give it a little stock. If they're in the other 364 days a year bashing Trump, and this one time when the polls come out, they got to say something nice about it. Give them a little credit there. So Harry Inton also pointing out, you couldn't see the big numbers, but when you go from -5 to +4, huge swing. And so that makes you think, well, the media, are they going to soften their coverage of him? Are they tired of calling him Hitler? Like, if you've been saying that for the last 8 years, almost 10 years now, if you count the first election cycle, it's been 9 years they've been calling him a Nazi. How long could that possibly last? And then, so what you have to look at is not just what the poll numbers say and what he's doing. I think what's really important is the party that lost, the Democrat Party, are they changing anything? Are they doing anything different? Okay, well, let me run a couple sound bites by you. One from the political class, one from the entertainment class, the lay class. First, we'll talk about Bernie Sanders here, and he's got some big concerns about these cuts. Like, is this the message that's going to win back the voters?
Let's be clear about what's happening right now in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Elon Musk is the wealthiest guy in the world.
See, now, from the point of view of a socialist, that's evil. From the point of view of a free market capitalist, he's also, if he's the richest person in the world, did he steal it? Is that what happened? Or is he a dictator like Chavez or Putin? And that's why he's the richest person in the world? Or did he earn it? Is he the most successful person in the world? Is he the most accomplished person in the world? Is he doing things that no one else has ever done? Yeah. How many people have tried to start an electric car company? I can name you 8 failed electric car attempts, companies that attempted it. He's made one that's profitable. NASA never made a rocket that can send you up in outer space and reuse the big gas tanks like Elon does. Not only does he reuse them, he now has a giant robot that catches these rockets that are falling down from outer space. It's like bigger than Godzilla supposedly was. Does he have a network of breadbasket satellites floating in a lattice orbit, low Earth orbit, providing internet around the world? That's a hell of an accomplishment. On top of the other things he's done. Anyway, not to get too on a side there. Back to Bernie Sanders.
He contributed $270 million to elect Donald Trump as president. Surprise, surprise. He is now having the most important job in the United States government. That's what happens when you make a huge campaign contribution. And by the way, Musk today is $150 billion wealthier than he was before Trump was elected. How's that? Not bad.
So he has already spent like 42 seconds trying to get you to hate Elon Musk before he even gets to any substance of the point he's trying to make. He's the richest man in the world. So that's not a bad thing. He's gotten even wealthier since the election. Well, I kind of figured he would. It's not like a bad thing. All right, now that you've just revved up your people on a envy train here, because I don't even see those negative. You have to be an envious person to be like, ooh, he's rich. Ooh, he must be bad. He didn't earn that. He can't be richer than me. Anybody richer than me must have stole it. He got even richer since the election. Oh, he's evil. No, it's a good thing. Anyway.
Now, what Musk is trying to do right now is to destroy USAID, a program which helps hungry and sick children all over the world.
Less than 2% of their funding went to hungry and sick children around the world.
Poorest people in the world. That's what the richest guy in the world is doing. Today, he's going after USAID. Trust me, tomorrow, he will be going after the programs that impact you and your family.
Good.
That is Medicaid. That is Medicare.
Good.
That is community health centers. That is education.
Good.
That is Pell Grants.
Good.
That is affordable housing.
Good. Thank
Together,
God.
we are going to stand up and fight back, get organized, and tell Trump that this country is a democracy. The government is supposed to work for all of us, not just the billionaire class. So stand up and fight back. We can do it. We can stop them.
Was he trying to sell Elon Musk to me? Because if you take that from the point of view of a free market capitalist pig like myself, everything he said there has made Elon Musk sound great. He's the richest man in the world. Oh, cool. He's made $150 billion since the election. Now, that's a pretty good return. Maybe we should listen to what he says. Maybe we should take advice from the guy who's made $150 billion in the last, 2-3 months? Yeah, that's not a demerit in my book. Well, he also has made big cuts to USAID. Oh, that sounds great. We might go after the Department of Education next. God, I hope so. He's going to cut all these entitlements and safety nets. Good. What was that an ad for Elon Musk, Bernie Sanders? So no, I don't think they're getting the message, at least not in the political class. Coming up next, you'll hear from the entertainment class. Are they getting the message? Are they saying anything different that could win over voters? Because if they don't change their messaging or at least their angle on their messaging, I think these Trump poll numbers might last. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. You'll hear The View next on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. If you want to be part of the conversation, call in 800-288-9227. The question is can Trump's good poll numbers last? Because at some point you expect the old legacy media to sort of contract and lose influence to the point to where it's not going to be the overwhelming juggernaut it once was. And, you know, they've been able to drive every Republican in your lifetime. They've been able to drive his poll numbers absolutely into the dirt by the time he gets out of office, usually by the time he's up for re-election. And it's a constant barrage, just like you saw with the election. It's like 90% negative headlines, a few neutral headlines, and maybe a handful, a small smattering of actually positive things. And when I say the legacy media, I don't mean just CNN and MSNBC, ABC, NBC, CBS, they all follow. They're singing from the same sheet of music. And one thing you watch more so than what the Trump administration is doing is the party that lost. Are they getting the message on why they lost, and are they making the changes? You saw that after Obama's midterm, when the red wave did not happen at all, and you see the Republicans making some adjustments around 2012. They stopped being against gay marriage. Trump's not against it at all. We just elected a guy the second time around, who was actually the first president who was pro-gay marriage when he was elected. Don't really get credit for that. But then they dropped some other things. They're not so hardcore against the prosecuting small amounts of weed. You know, you've seen those laws be relaxed around the country, and now something like 42 states allow some version of legal, at least medical marijuana. So you've seen the adjustments be made on Team Red, and here they are back in power. You would think that Team Blue needs to look around and they're like, well, it looks like this talk of cutting government resonated. Maybe we shouldn't be so hardcore against Doge. Well, you heard Bernie Sanders blowing that out the water by being hardcore against Doge, saying just the exact opposite of what the message he should have learned from the election. And then on the cultural front, sort of the woke front, there's the giant movement you've seen between voters of color, whether it's Hispanics or Black Americans. They both trended toward Trump. So maybe they could retool their racial messaging. No, they didn't get that message either. You'll hear from The View how they're just still wrong as wrong can be and not getting the message. After I talked to Neil in Fort Worth, Neil, you're on WBAP. Do you think Trump's poll numbers can last? Oh, he hung up right as I went to him. I blame you, Garrett. And Neil loses 2 points for his phone dropping right there. Well, fine. I'll just go straight to The View then. I was going to do that anyway. Neil looked like he had a good call. All right. So The View, this is their take on the Super Bowl. Now, remember, the Super Bowl is all about football. What did they take away from it? It's like the Tootsie Roll commercial. Whatever it is they think they see becomes racism to me.
You know, I don't do sports. You know, I don't do football. So I wasn't watching the game. But listen. I think today Donald Trump is going to sign an executive order banning black people from halftime.
Why is that funny?
Because you remember last week we were talking about whether...
The problem is everyone clapped, and so she thinks what she said is profound. She thinks Donald Trump's... I mean, I know she's making a joke there, banning black people from halftime. They are... That's what you saw? Like, the entire Super Bowl happened, and you're like, boy, oh boy, not Patrick Mahomes laid an egg, or Jalen Hurts really deserved it, or the Eagles have a good team, or that was a blowout, or... Did you see how black the halftime show was? That's your takeaway? Can you stop focusing on race like it's the most important thing for like one show, just for 5 minutes? You know, I'm exhausted by race being forced into so many of these places where it just doesn't belong. In fact, I didn't hear one person. It's like, and I follow a lot of Team Red and Team Blue people on social media. No one's like, everyone in the halftime show was black. That makes me angry. Not one person that I saw said that.
The NFL was capitulating to Trump by removing the term "end racism" from the end zone. Yeah. Boy, did they not capitulate to Trump.
See, they're not capitulating to Trump when they took end racism out the end zone. It's not cool anymore. The people are sick of it. It doesn't fit there. It looks ridiculous to have a league that's 70% minority talking about we got to end racism. Who are you talking to? Who are these racists that she believes that she's making angry? That who? Because like I've said on the show 100 times, there's not one person in any position of power that if you put a microphone in front of their face and say, are you a racist or do you support racism? None of them will say yes. There's not a mayor. There's not a city councilman. There's not a governor. There's not a state representative. There's not a congressman. There's not a senator. No one's on team racism. Who are you talking about? She just imagines that there's all these Republican voters and we're just frothing at the mouth racist and we just can't stand to see black people in the Super Bowl halftime. No, we don't think like that. I don't know anybody who thinks like that.
When I saw Samuel L. Jackson dressed as a black Uncle Sam introducing Kendrick Lamar, who then had like an entire formation of all black people making a U.S. flag. Listen, this much I know. All the black people on my feed were like, ooh, this is blackity black black. And all the racists who somehow get in,
who?
Man, were they hopping mad. So if the racists are mad, I am happy as a clam.
There's nobody on Team Right. She's just imagining there's groups of racists out there. And is that sticking it to Trump? You saw that as something divisive, the thumb in their nose, like, we're sticking it to Trump. I thought that was very inclusive to see Samuel L. Jackson dressed as Uncle Sam. It's kind of like Hamilton. Good point. Give yourself 3 points. That's a field goal. Garrett made a good joke. It's like Hamilton. I thought that instilled a sense of unity. You have this classic heritage symbol of Americana, and you have what I believe Samuel Jackson is the highest grossing actor of all time. That's what happens when you're in both the Avengers and Star Wars. And when you mix the two images together, I thought that was a beautiful metaphor of what America is. I thought that was a unifying message. Me over here on Team Red, I wasn't turned off. I was like, oh, they have a black man dressed like Uncle Sam. This is awful. In fact, I don't know anybody that said that. Who doesn't like Samuel Jackson? Who didn't think that was cool seeing him dressed as Uncle Sam? Who didn't see that as a pro-American unifying? Oh, The View. They didn't see that. They saw, oh, well, this is going to tick off all the closet racists on Team Red. Fantasyland. No, they didn't get the message. They didn't get the memo. They're not learning. I'm pretty sure Trump's poll numbers are going to last as long as they keep acting like this. Coming up next, we're going to have an immigration attorney talk about what's going on with the big sweeping changes and crackdowns on illegal immigration under Trump 2.0. Kate Lincoln Goldfinch next on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Who's enjoying this timeline now? Who's enjoying the fact that we have a guy that's going just line by line through the federal government, through the budget, and actually evaluating where your money's going? Isn't that amazing? And isn't it amazing to see so many people complain about this when going line by line through the budget? You know, trying to make a spending cut used to be okay. Used to be not, oh my God, you're going to cut the budget. Kids on the other side of the planet are going to starve. You're going to just ruin the lives of millions of people. Now, it used to be cool making a spending cut. Obama in 2008.
Investments, but we've also got to make spending cuts. And what I've proposed, you'll hear Senator McCain say, well, he's proposing a whole bunch of new spending, but actually I am cutting more than I'm spending so that it will be a net spending cut.
Oh, a net spending cut. So that was cool when he wanted to do it. Oh, okay. I get it now. Spending cuts are only bad if Team Red does them. But there's a lot of turnarounds like that. When I was saying that, like the adjustments that have been made between Team Red and Team Blue just in the last couple of decades, you know, a big one I pointed out was gay marriage. Everyone who runs for president now is okay with gay marriage. It used to be that just 15 years ago, 20 years ago, the opposite was the case. You couldn't even find anyone to run for president as a Democrat that supported gay marriage. Here's Obama before he ran for president.
I think there are a whole host of things that are civil rights. And then there are other things, such as traditional marriage, that I think express a community's concern and regard for a particular institution.
So marriage is not a civil right as far as you're concerned?
I don't think marriage is a civil right.
And it wasn't just him. It was also Hillary. She was against it, too, 2004.
I believe that marriage is not just a bond, but a sacred bond between a man and a woman. I have had occasion in my life to defend marriage, to stand up for marriage, to believe in the hard work.
Hard work, we got it. You didn't support gay marriage until it was popular with more than 51% of the population. We got it. These are positions that today can get you listed as a domestic terrorist organization by the Anti-Defamation League, you're labeled as a hate group if you take this position on marriage in the current day. For all of human history up until about 10 years ago, 14 years ago, that was the position, that was the majority position of all time. Now, if you don't take this new position, you're a hate group. Isn't that interesting? Does that mean the Democrat Party is a hate group? Because they used to support this, and good, they changed. Because personally, I'm fine with gay marriage, whatever. But that's weird how they made some adjustments there. But Team Red made some similar adjustments. Just like you've seen some natural things kind of move your direction. They don't get trumpeted in the media because, your wins don't exactly help the narrative. But think of how gun rights have been expanded over the last 2-3 decades. It was far more restrictive when you and I were kids versus it started with the concealed carry and then the constitutional carry. And now we got campus carry. We've made some great advancements in some of these segments of society, but that speaks to a larger shift. Now, these shifts don't happen because all of a sudden politicians start thinking the right things or really changing their position. The shift happens because you and I and so many people in the American voting electorate change their positions and the politicians follow suit. But if we have some guys who just lost an election and they don't make those changes, they could just stop making everything about race and everything about identity politics and everything about the color of your skin or who you're attracted to or your gender. They're not gonna speak to a larger electorate. They're not gonna win anyone over. That is the message. That's the folks that just lost him this election. And I think his poll numbers are going to be more robust than a lot of people expect until they start making those changes. 800-288-9227. Your thoughts? Coming up next, we're going to ask Jim Varney from Real Clear Politics about what's going on behind the headlines with all the Trump cuts and Doge and all that fun stuff. Also, the North Texas Auto Expo coming back February 20th. That's 9 days from now. It'll be through 20th through the 23rd, Dallas Convention Center. You can get behind the wheel of a Chevy, Jeep, or Ram. You can take a spin on the outdoor ride and drive, test an Audi or Benzo on the indoor EV track. If you want to win a pair of tickets, text the word AUTO to 800-288-9227. Text the word AUTO, A-U-T-O, to 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome to the big show. My next guest is joining us from RealClearPolitics.com and Real Clear Investigations. Give it up for my friend James Varney. Welcome back to the big show.
Hey, James. Thanks for having me.
All right, taking a look at the national political scene. I don't understand this judge's ruling. The judge's ruling says Trump's not allowed to take down certain websites within the executive department, even though the Constitution clearly says he's the executive of the executive branch of government. Make that make sense. Can a judge really prevent the president from taking down websites that are clearly under his own branch?
I wish I could make sense of that for you, James. I mean, and I think it's interesting that you see both sides now are talking about a, quote, constitutional crisis. On the one hand, the left is saying that Trump cannot stop government and he cannot try and trim the bureaucracy. And on the other side, the right is saying, why is one district judge in Rhode Island presume himself able to tell the president of the United States what he can and can't do? So I don't know what's going to give. Obviously, an accommodation would be a little on both sides. But it does seem to me, like you, from what you just said, preposterous that a district judge is going to tell the executive branch what it can do and what it can spend and how it can administer a bureaucracy that is presumably under the executive branch, but whose, reach and growth was one of the driving factors in the election last November.
Well, we also have another judge that was trying to stop access to the records in the Treasury Department. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was an interesting judicial decision, saying that the president doesn't have the right to audit his own Treasury Department, still under the executive branch. And if the president can't do it, then who can?
Right. And, there's been two interesting takes on that. One was from Justine Bateman, who you might remember from that Family Ties show.
Yeah. I saw that
Twitter account, and she was saying, the credit card companies already have all this information. Big tech companies already have all this information, but people are, screaming like banshees because they think that Elon Musk might get this information. Everybody already has that. It's just absurd.
Well, it's also, what's he going to do? Take out a credit card in my name and run it up, and then just run laughing maniacally into the night?
Right. And another place that I would encourage your listeners to look at is Data Republican, small r, on Twitter. Really fascinating stuff that is just sort of laying out what's going on here. And it seems to me ridiculous that a district judge is going to say that, first of all, he apparently issued the ruling at 1 a.m. on Saturday. And according to Trump, it was ex parte, meaning that Trump and the government's lawyers never had a chance to respond to the complaint, which was filed by, the Attorney General of California and New York. So that was one thing, the timing and who brought the case. And then the other thing is they were saying this means that even the Secretary of the Treasury couldn't look at this stuff. So, again, we've got this idea that, Trump has appointed Musk, and we now have this unelected shadow government. And as I think the Babylon Bee pointed out, the Democrats are yelling that this unelected shadow government is going to dismantle their unelected shadow government, So...
Oh, brilliant. I didn't see that. Babylon Bee is funny because it's so over the target.
Right. Yeah, it's a very funny site. And I think that that's really what's going on here. Like I said a moment ago, that the scope and the size and the power of the bureaucracy was one of the big facts. I don't know if you've noticed this, but it seems like I talk to people that can't stand Trump, and it's almost as if history began with Trump. And it's like, the last 4 years did happen. I mean, there was a reason that there was this election and it turned out the way it did last November. Everything didn't just start on January 20th. And these things that Trump is doing, yes, he's running around like a bull in a china shop, but I think that people voted for that. So I find it perplexing.
All right, we're talking with James Varney from Real Clear Politics. You've met Miss Parker before. She's fun in social situations. He can back it up.
She's a lovely woman, yeah.
So let's talk about, get back into this Doge situation. The criticism of this, I've wondered what they were going to say if we actually do start cutting budgets. And I foresaw the criticism of people saying, well, children are going to go hungry or old people are just going to be left dying in the gutter. The regular scaremongering emotional pull. I did not foresee that they would criticize the fact that the engineers are young. Whoop-de-doo, who cares? And they have funny handles in different social media platforms, a.k.a. Big Balls.
Right.
I didn't see that coming. I think that's a nice twist on the timeline, and I don't think it's going to resonate. Are you surprised by this?
I think that there's a lot of different tea leaves that you're talking about there, right? But so it's telling to me that they tried to derail this by a left-wing journalist bringing up tweets that this guy made. And, of course, it goes partly to if you spend time on social media or you go in the comment stream on publication stories, even some, not so much ours. I think Real Clear is pretty good about this. But you see a lot of knuckleheads, right?
Oh, my God, yes.
People, under the guise of anonymity, say the stupidest things and think they're hot shots. And, Nick Saban used to talk about this, right? Like, why do you worry about some guy living in his mom's basement if he says you didn't catch the pass? Don't worry about this. And in the past, that story would have probably derailed Doge, but they just pushed right past it. And it was remarkable to me that I saw some Trump opponents talking about this knucklehead's tweets, which did sound like an obnoxious jerk, let's be honest. But that was all they were talking about for 2 days. And they weren't talking about, I was like, that's should be 2 minutes of the hour. And the other 58 minutes we should be spending on the incredible stuff they're finding out and that we're learning and that they're exposing. And I think that both the pace of what they're doing has caught their opponents off guard. And I think the real meat that voters and taxpayers and readers and your listening public, what they've been finding out completely outweighs all those kind of petty criticisms that have gone on. So
I am tempted to kind of gloat a little bit and notice that, hey, all of their attacks are sort of ad hominem. They have funny names. They've said some mean things. They're young. And if they're not actually having an attempt to even talk about the issues they're uncovering, defending USAID or defending some of this other spending that they're uncovering, I feel like that we should easily win that argument, but we lose that argument all the time, even if they do just have emotional appeals and try and scare you into not liking these people. But I would like to see more people in the media just push back on this just a little bit more. Like when Elizabeth Warren talks about how these guys are, some of them are 19 years old, the oldest was 22, and they have horrible. Lady, can you do what they do? Can you go do a forensic audit of a complex database system? Can you code anything? Did you even have a speak and spell when you were a kid? It just seems so misplaced.
And these are the same people, that have been telling us that, like, Greta Thunberg is a profound voice in the world right now.
She gets to speak in front of the UN, right. Actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another reason that I don't think that the arguments work. But I think the biggest factor is the way that the media has become fractured. Like you mentioned before you went to the break, how poll numbers traditionally for Republican presidents, they all get beaten down sooner or later. And that is because of a steady drumbeat. You saw this after Katrina, right, where they were just using it to hammer Bush and try and ruin Bush in his second term. And I don't think you're right. Trump's number right now is like, I think I saw somebody saying this is the highest it's ever been. You always, I think, get a little bit of a bump, right, when you take office because people are hopeful, right? Most Americans want things to work out and be good. So you get that little bump. I don't think you can keep it up forever because the country just is too divided. I don't see, at least in the near future, never say never, but in the near future, I don't see somebody winning 59 states again like Reagan did, right? But I think
49, but yeah, we got it.
Like, see, right. I'm Obama. I'm thinking that the wrong states, right?
Yeah, well, that's after we annex Canada.
Right, or Greenland. But so because there's this fractured landscape now, I don't think that they're going to be as able to do that, to beat the poll numbers down. Just as we've seen, they haven't really been able to deflect or combat what's been happening with Musk and those guys because the strength of the argument that Musk and these guys have just completely outweighs the carping that we hear on the other side.
All right, let me switch gears super fast on you. Your thoughts on the rebuilding Gaza sweepstakes? We move the Palestinians out. We move the bulldozers in. We clear all the ordnance and tunnels and structures. Then we rebuild it. Probably put like an IKEA and a Home Depot. I figure after you're bombed for 50 years, you'd need a Home Depot. I think they could use a good Buc-ee's there. But, one of the big criticism is like, well, where are you going to put the Palestinians while the Gaza is being rebuilt? And I thought, Greenland.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on the Gaza rebuilding plan?
Well, I think on the one hand, Trump was just pushing buttons when he said that thing about we're going to turn it into, Trump International Resort on the Strip with golf courses and the beach. I think he just says that stuff sometimes just to make people's heads explode. But it does kind of just say, let's try and think outside the box here, right? Because what we've been doing my whole life hasn't worked. And it just keeps going on and on. We need to try and break the chain somehow. And I think it's really kind of significant that none of the Arab countries, you guys just said this on your news roundup, that none of the Arab countries want to take any of these people. And, you can look into that and you can see that to some extent the Arab countries like to have that as an escape valve, right? So if their domestic pressures, it's like, oh, no, look at this. Look at what terrible stuff happening to the Palestinians. And then the people aren't upset about the terrible stuff happening in their own country. But why don't they want to take them? I mean, isn't that the most logical place for fellow Islamic countries to take these Islamic people that are unhappy and miserable where they are?
Well, at least the West Bank, what we call the West Bank now, when it was originally partitioned out, was part of Jordan. And then since Israel took it back, they've offered to return it to Jordan. And Jordan still says, no, we don't want our own land back. That's how little we want to absorb the Palestinians. And, they've already taken a lot of refugees from that conflict to begin with. But, yeah, that's always a curious point.
Tell you something.
Yeah, no one really wants to help these guys out. All right, James Varney, what do you got coming up on Real Clear Investigations we need to look for?
Well, something along the lines of what DOGE is doing, but it's really the fact that if you look at these federal budget numbers, they're all over the map. And everybody seems to have different numbers. And if you go to usaspending.gov, which is the traditional place that people have started to look, the numbers don't all add up. They don't square. And we're wondering if this thing has maybe completely slipped the leash and that the federal spending and budgeting has just gotten too enormous for anybody to really keep track of. I don't know that that's true, but that's the kind of story we're working on right now.
All right. Well, thank you very much. That's James Varney. Find him at Real Clear Politics and RealClearInvestigations.com. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me, James.
All right, coming up next, there's been a lot of talk about adding gambling to Texas, and we already have some inroads with sports gambling. In fact, Governor Abbott said some nice things about it in the last couple weeks. But is this going to cause a problem with people who develop gambling addictions? We'll ask an addiction expert next on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.